Welcome one and welcome all. This is the Easy Allies NeoGeo 2020 Buyer's Guide and Holiday Spectacular. We are here getting ready to start the parade of games. I am your host, Don Casanova, here in the Easy Allies broadcast booth next to my friend, Marvelous Ian Hink. Thank you for being here. It's nice to see you. We're gonna have some fun today, won't we?
We're gonna have a blast today, Don. I'm thrilled to be standing here, freezing our butts off.
So here we are now. The parade is officially getting started, and the floats are rolling down the boulevard as some flurries begin to fall here in the city. First up, Ian, what's your favorite leisure activity?
Well, since I know what game it is, I'll say golf.
Well, a lot of people like to get outside into the great outdoors, and this first float might be the next best thing. Top Players Golf, Ian. The rich, vibrant greens and blues of nature are reproduced here with gorgeous graphics. Look at the animated water swell and splash against the shore. The puffy cotton ball clouds float past. Heck, even blades of grass can be seen erupting from around the golf balls as they land. This is some cool, casual outdoor fun that anyone can enjoy inside this holiday.
Truly gorgeous, Don. Truly gorgeous. Like you said, you highlighted the grass and water, and that the character animations coming up and the action. It really puts you in these greens, puts you in these courses.
Absolutely, you can feel the intensity, the pressure. It's called a game of leisure, a game of kings, but when you're playing it with this level of realism, there's a certain amount of intensity to it as well, isn't there? Well represented on this float, I think.
You know, I'm feeling warmer already, Don. I don't feel like we're in the snow, but I feel like I'm out there on the holes, putting away, driving away, and getting those holes in one.
Beautiful float like this rambling down the boulevard. It's starting to add a little heat to the booth up here, and we sure appreciate it, don't we, Ian?
We absolutely do, Don. We've got, from what I've heard, a wonderful lineup of Neo Geo games coming down the road in this parade. But first, if I'm not mistaken, you recently sat down with buying connoisseur Ben Moore to talk about some of the Neo Geo hardware options. Is that correct, Don?
Yes, absolutely. And we looked at 3 of the hottest pieces of hardware that Neo Geo has on the market for this upcoming holiday season. And we looked into the details, tore into it a little bit. So we've got 3 parts buyer guide as part of this holiday spectacular today. Season's greetings, everybody. Whether you're a wayward shopper in search of a unique gift for someone special, a retro gaming fan looking for your next home arcade experience, or maybe just a Neo Geo nutcase wanting to expand your ever-growing collection, we are sure to have something on our shopping list today that'll pique your interest. Here to help us sort through the details is the spectacular Ben Moore. Happy holidays, Ben. Thanks for being here.
Happy holidays. Don,
are you ready to do some shopping?
When you asked me to do this, I was like, this is the most excited I've been to be asked to be in a video like all year. I love the idea.
We're going to have a lot of fun. Get your eggnog ready, your hot chocolate ready, whatever you want out there. It's not going to get much cozier than this, I don't think.
Hey, are you on my side? Are you pro eggnog?
For sure.
Okay,
I'm
nice.
eggnog, but I'm on the non-alcoholic eggnog boat.
Okay.
Alcoholic eggnog, I don't know. It's gone south for me when I've tried it before.
I think I've only had alcoholic eggnog once in my life. I usually am non-alcoholic eggnog as well.
For sure. But no, I enjoy a little bit. I'll have 1 cup, just like anything, you don't overdo it. On the holidays.
There you go. Don't overdo it.
Anywho, this is a 3-part special, okay? And here we are in part 1. First things first, we're going to look at the SNK NeoGeo Mini, okay? Now, this is a mini console released back in 2018, actually, kind of at the height of the mini console craze, if you could call it. And the reason I wanted to circle back to this shopping season here is because a lot of the initial reaction to it, I think, was a little mixed. My initial reaction was certainly mixed. You know, I'm a big-time Neo Geo fan, but at the time I was, heavily invested. I'd already invested in the virtual console Neo Geo library, then the Wii U, and then I was getting pretty heavy into the Switch, all these great emulations Hamster is putting out. So when I came across the Mini, it was like, it came across to me, it just had the vibe, a little bit of a gimmick to me. It wasn't quite what I was like hoping for in a Neo Geo mini console in terms of like all inclusive everything, the experience. And I just kind of passed over it. Since then, my opinion has changed. I've warmed to it. I, in fact, came around and purchased one this year finally. But what's your background with the Neo Geo Mini, Ben? What was your initial kind of experience with it? Has it changed at all?
I'm so glad you asked this, because my experience with the NeoGeo Mini is like the perfect impulse buy. So last year I was at Evo, and it was the first time I had gone to Evo in person, which is something I've wanted to do for a very, very, very long time.
Yeah.
And I was just in really good spirits. I had a blast. It was everything I wanted it to be. And at Evo, they had, vendors and stuff, and walked up to it, and they had a NeoGeo Mini there, and I just played it for a little bit, played some Samurai Showdown 2, and I was like, I have to buy this.
Yeah.
And so I did. And yeah, I got it, and then didn't really put any significant amount of time onto it until we were going to do the show. And I've since kind of gone through and checked it out a little bit more thoroughly. And I like it, but it's a heavily qualified like. I think there are some significant problems with it, but it's still carried by the quality of those games, which I still think are super fun and have a lot of specific charm to them.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's well said. I mean, for sure, this had a couple of things that it was criticized for pretty heavily, and we'll touch on that a little bit here right now. But this obviously has kind of a pretty high quality, I feel like, industrial design build to it. I mean, it's a very light when you hold it, right? But overall, it feels pretty good. The critique came in the stick. It's
yes,
no micro
that is my
switches.
critique as well.
Okay,
yeah.
good. I'd like you to explain to me a little bit your thoughts on it, because a lot of these games designed in the arcade, when you've got that stick with the micro switches, you can hit these precise angles exactly.
Yes.
You know where you are at all times without doubt, and you kind of need that with a lot of these games. I'm talking Shock Troopers, some of these top-down shooters. What is your feeling about this controller? Is it still serviceable? Is it acceptable? What do you think?
I would say serviceable is probably a somewhat accurate way to describe it. It really depends on a game-by-game basis. Jumping into Metal Slug 1 through 3, it controlled pretty well. I was able to move and attack in exactly the way that I wanted to. But when it came to the fighting games, like particularly King of Fighters 98, I just wasn't able to execute special moves the way that I know that I could more consistently on another pad. And it just comes down to the circular design of that stick. It just felt like it was too slidey to get those special move inputs consistently.
So that is one of the things that I guess I want to highlight. Yeah, it's not necessarily the thing you'd be looking for if you're looking for any kind of thing close to the arcade perfect experience, right?
Right.
Let's move on to the game selection, if you don't mind, Ben. This has a pretty robust selection, 40 games. These are all the home AES version of the arcade games, which is really cool. Most of the genres here are represented pretty well, I feel like. I mean, if not possibly the best out of all of these systems we're going to talk about today. I mean, we've got Last Resort, Blazing Star, which are a couple of the really great, I think, side-scrolling shoot-'em-ups. Sengoku 3, which is one of the more rare beat 'em ups, and we've got some other really unique Neo Geo beat 'em ups, Robo Army, Mutation Nation. You've got both Shock Troopers included, both King of the Monsters, which the special one really stands out for me as something I never had access to. What do you think, Ben?
I'm really glad we talked about this, because I have the Samurai Showdown NeoGeo Mini, and what you have access to in terms of games depends on the version that you get.
Yes.
So on mine, it's great that I have Samurai Showdown 1 through 5 and Samurai Showdown 5 Special, but I only have Metal Slug 1 through 3, and I know that there are other editions of the system that come with 4 and 5. As well as King of the Monsters. I only have King of the Monsters 2.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
So yeah, I would say if you are going to get one, I would definitely take a look at the different editions and see what exactly that you want. I am not that familiar with King of the Monsters, but playing King of the Monsters 2, that game is really awesome.
Oh my God. I like the first one when I was younger. I used to play it all the time in the arcade. I never knew a second one existed actually until like several years ago. I just never knew about it. And then to play it, I mean, it's such an improvement over the first one, how they sort of make it a little bit of a beat 'em up, a little bit of a brawler, and just, oh God, it's just classic, the epitome of arcade action that you just love. I mean, that big icon that says mash the button when you gotta get up, all that kind of stuff is just like, yeah, baby.
I mean, I feel like you could go through, SNK game after SNK game talking about the animations, but like a King of the Monsters 2 specifically, just like one of the throws that you could do is you're this giant Godzilla-like creature and you're just ripping off flesh of the opponent that you're fighting. And yeah, it's just so over the top and ridiculous and great. Like these games just have ridiculous personality to them.
So yeah, talking about the games, Ben, one other thing that's worth mentioning that it was heavily criticized for on its release was the quality of the emulation. Okay, a lot of people said it was basically unplayable. I disagree. There's definitely, it's not perfect. It's not the perfect experience. I mean, I put it side to side with some of these really nice hamster emulations that they're releasing, Metal Slug side to side. And yeah, it was a little, the general look of it is that you're just getting a slightly stretched, slightly almost softer image quality to it. Far from unplayable, I thought. What was your experience with the emulation? What is this? Is it as bad as a lot of people said it was initially?
I didn't have any significant issues with the emulation, except when it came to Metal Slug 1 and 2 in particular. Like the slowdown got so bad that it was affecting my enjoyment of the game. And I don't know, I feel like I might be more sensitive to this because Metal Slug is definitely the SNK property that I'm most attached to.
I'm really glad you mentioned the different versions though, because that's one of the interesting things about this product. Okay, you've got several different versions. You've got a few Samurai Showdown editions. You got the international, American, and then you've also got this really jolly Christmas edition, which I came across. I don't know if you've seen this, Ben.
I have not seen the Christmas edition, no.
It came out last Christmas, but it is available. People are reselling this thing somewhere in the 200 and up range, so it's not completely exorbitant, but it's a really cute little guy if you're a big time collector for Neo Geo, and it's super jolly if you're looking for a special Neo Geo gift this holiday. But the price point, let's talk about that real quick before we wrap up, Ben. Right now you can pretty much find this as a bundle with 2 controllers, which all the cables, a power supply, really all inclusive bundle for about $60, give or take, depending where you buy it. I mean, it feels like a pretty good value for me, but you got to know what you're getting, right, Ben? I mean, this is sort of like, is it a fun toy? I mean, how long would this hold your attention in mini mode? What's your vibe on this in terms of the purchase price?
When you talk about value, Don, I think that's probably the best way to describe it, where I don't necessarily think this is probably the best way to play any of these games individually, but as a collection, if you have enthusiasm for SNK, I could definitely see you getting some enjoyment out of this. Like I certainly don't regret buying it, and just trying to do a little bit of prep work before the show. Like even though it wasn't perfect, I was still having a blast with a lot of these games.
Yeah, I really agree. I think that's the point. I think this is just a really fun little diversion, slash toy, something, I can keep this thing in my laundry room. I used to play Neo Geo a lot in laundromats. So, maybe if I arrive, I hear the buzzer for the dryer, show up 5 minutes early, I can play a little Neo Geo right there, on the side. Not take anything too seriously, and you're okay. As long as you're not looking for, really authentic experience, I think you're okay.
I think that's a great way to describe it.
Well, stick around. Look, we've got a lot more coming up in part 2 of the Buyer's Guide. We'll be back soon.
So back in college, I often couldn't get a lot of work done in my dorm room for various reasons. So I'd go and do homework and study and read at the library. And I would sit in the children's literature section. And sometimes if I was bored in between some work, I would read a kid's book. But I would also be a horrible cheat, and I'd bring my NeoGeo Pocket Color and one of my favorite games, Ganbare Neo Poke Con, and I don't speak Japanese. But I imported this game back then, and I lost it sometime in the last 17 years. So I did actually re-import it at one point. It's a WarioWare-esque / Tamagotchi game that's utterly bizarre and kind of goes through the history of games by corrupting games. So in Space Invaders, instead of being the invaders or the alien defense force, you're stuck in between and you have to just make sure you don't get hit by either side. There's a side scroller and all you can do is jump kick because that's all you need, right?
Uh-oh, Don. Do I hear a 100-meter tall lizard lumbering down the boulevard? Or did you eat too much eggnog? This next float will transport you right back to the 90s arcades. That's right, leave it to the incredible power of the NeoGeo to render out massive monsters battling across fully destructible cityscapes with frightening detail. King of the Monsters 2. Why number 2 on the holiday parade, you ask? Well, this float doubles the fun with 1 part action and 1 part brawler, as these monsters travel through cities and across landscapes, leaving total devastation in their wake. It looks great, Don.
It's absolutely stunning to see, and I mean, this is the 100 mega shock we hear about, the power of the NeoGeo, and to see the environments and landscapes rendered out in this way, I mean, interact with almost anything you see on screen. It's a stunning thing, isn't it?
There's many things to love in King of the Monsters 2. The inventiveness of the enemy, of the monster attacks, Don, taking off your own horn and throwing it like a javelin, or moving from the city down into the water, throwing stones from the environment. It truly is powerful to be a monster.
Who hasn't wanted to be 100-meter tall mechanical gorilla, Ian, doing butt thrusts into the Bay Bridge? I know I sure would like that.
I'm not joking, Don. That is one of my biggest fantasies of all time. I think about that almost every day. It's a bit of a problem.
It's on the old bucket list for sure, Ian, and maybe this holiday you'll be able to check it off if you pick up this King of the Monsters 2 represented in this beautiful float.
Looking forward to playing it myself.
Next up, coming down the boulevard, is Top Hunter Roddy and Kathy. Somebody fire the writers. It's a horrible name, Ian, for an otherwise spectacular float. This is co-op platforming on multiple planes of action, okay? Roddy and Kathy jump freely from foreground to background, grabbing, tossing, and punching their quirky foes. Casino-like collectibles and power-ups give a dazzling touch to this balanced adventure.
And it's a bit of a mouthful, as you mentioned, Roddy and Kathy, though what I do appreciate about this float is that it gives it a little bit more personal charm, Don. These aren't just nameless hunters, they're Roddy and Kathy.
Yes, this isn't another Bimmy and Jimmy, or as it were. These are unique personalities that NeoGeo have designed, and they're just about as fun to play with as they are to watch.
What I love too is the stature of these characters on this float, Don. You really get a sense of their personalities, not just through their powers, but also just how they move and walk and interact with the environments. Truly is something special to behold.
Absolutely, Ian. You know, the designers of this float have done something really special for us this year. As you can see, we are traveling through the ice planet. Featured within the game, this is a snowy wonderland with all sorts of dangers afoot, and we're being treated to this special holiday landscape right now. As it rolls down the boulevard, it's a majestic sight to see.
The complexity of some of these floats, Don, are staggering to me. Going from the jungle to the ice scape as we have now, I don't know what my body wants to feel. I was warming up and now I'm cooling back down, Don.
It's a roller coaster ride, Ian. Shall we take another spin?
Oh, anytime.
Before we do, though, let's go now. I'm going to return. Let's go to part 2 of me sitting down with Mr. Ben Moore and looking at this next piece of exciting NeoGeo hardware you may be finding under your tree or menorah this year.
Let's check it out.
There was an arcade in Coralville, Iowa.
Okay.
And I just remember going to the back of the arcade and they had these individual sit down like white cabinets. I had no idea what Metal Slug was, and they had Metal Slug 3, and I just sat down and I played it, and I was obsessed. Like that was my introduction to Metal Slug. And I was just so enchanted, and I miss that feeling. It just felt so pure being introduced to, you know, an iconic series that way, and I've been interested in it ever since. And it's just a really precious, strong memory of, like, you know, spending a Sunday afternoon finding out new games in an arcade.
I love how you put that. It brought back so many of my own nostalgic feelings. Welcome back, everyone. Part 2, moving right along with Ben Moore. We've got the NeoGeo Arcade Stick Pro. Okay, this is a combination console and arcade stick. This was released about a year ago, 2019. And from how I understand it, I mean, you know, because I'm not a pro player at all, but from what I understand, the general quality of this is just maybe a slight step below Pro Gear. It's like almost there, but not quite. And what are your thoughts on that? You know, you can use this as a console or a controller. I know, what do you have personally, first of all, Ben? I know you play with an arcade stick at home. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so the arcade stick that I use is the Obsidian Kanba. I believe that's how you say that last part. It is my favorite arcade stick that I have used, and pretty much any game that I decide to use it for, I'm not disappointed. Like, really high quality. I think it's about $120. And if you are serious about, you know, either learning a fight stick or just having something that is dependable, it's worth the money for sure.
So from your perspective, having the gear that you have, is there any reason to invest in another controller like this?
Yeah, so for this stick in particular, I don't have any hands-on experience with it at all. But it, you know, we kind of mentioned controller issues with the NeoGeo Mini and how there were some problems there. And I wonder if this stick, because you can plug it into the Mini, would fix a lot of the issues that I have. But the thing is like, I don't know if that's worth $130 on its own.
Yeah,
like that's a pretty steep price after already paying for the Mini to like get an additional thing. And you can use it with more than just the NeoGeo Mini, which I'm sure you'll go into.
Yeah, I've had a little bit of hands-on with this. Okay, it does have a good feel to it. I feel it's fair to compare it to something like maybe the Capcom Home Arcade. This has a little bit of a more matte feel. The buttons are a little heavier, a little softer. It feels like a little more robust than the Capcom Fight Stick, I would say. But what you mentioned is the game changer, Ben. You can get it with the Game Link, I believe it's called, which is a little adapter so you can play it on your Switch, your PS3, PS4 at this point. And not just that, but you can plug it straight into that Mini. So, and the Mini goes to the TV. So yeah, this gives you access to the whole Mini library, but this also gives you access to this massive Switch and PS4 library of hamster Neo Geo games. So it makes it really exciting. You know, like you said, it's steep at 120, and then yeah, you're talking about another 60 for the Mini maybe, and then each one of those individual games costs about $8. However, you're getting kind of close to something like a home arcade experience for, you know, a couple $100 too. So it depends what you're looking for, I guess.
Right. So you mentioned it was 120, and I'm looking on the official website and it says it's 130. Is it cheaper other places?
The deal I saw was actually on Walmart, and it was not just the stick. This actually came with the Game Link adapter, and I think it came with a HDMI cable that maybe wasn't included. It had a couple little accessories like that were included for 120. So yeah, maybe shop around a little bit.
Gotcha.
Same with the Mini. Really shop around a little bit because they're available from a bunch of different places, and you do get quite a variation in price and bundle that's available. So it's something that you should shop around a little bit for.
Don, I feel like the longer we talk, the closer I am to purchasing this. So that's something as well. It depends on the vibe going around.
It's not going to get any easier, Ben. Let's talk about the game. So this is interesting. All fighters are included, which is an interesting choice. However, the thing that makes this exciting, I think, is it's got this USB port, and they've already made a whole selection of extra games available for you to download, add to this console for free. They made these, which
that's
is really
great.
Nice. And they give you, it's a kind of a spattering of their general Neo Geo collection. So, you know, obviously there's a lot of hacks and this and that. So games, it's possible to add them in different ways, but I always feel good about doing it in an official kind of manner, and I just appreciate it when companies make it available. So I'm glad they're doing it with this, and I hope it continues. What do you think about this final verdict, 120 for the bundle with the game link? You're not sure, you're thinking about it, Ben, right? Maybe next segment you'll be in. We'll
yeah,
see.
I mean, I feel like I'm at the edge of a cliff, and you just need to tap me a little bit, and I'm over to...
We'll pour another cup of hot chocolate, and we'll be back in a little bit. We'll see if Ben has gotten a little bit loose with his cash, but we'll be back shortly. Stick around.
So I never had a NeoGeo system. I did, however, have a NeoGeo like computer simulator pack on one of my computers that I would use at my high school. So I would have a free period in my theater classroom, and instead of like, I would usually use the time to like work on the production that we were trying to put up or whatever. So like the time was spent, but I was basically taking a class that didn't exist in order to just hang out in my theater room all day after lunch. But on the computer was this NeoGeo simulator that had like Metal Slug 2 and Puzzle Bobble would be the two games that I would shuffle between. And I actually think about Metal Slug a lot because I really liked it. I mean, I don't know that the game is politically correct in any way nowadays, but I remember really enjoying it. And Puzzle Bobble, listen, I think I could put myself in a Tetris competition and if not win, like place. I'm good at Tetris. So I'm not going to say I'm not good at puzzle games. And I played Puzzle Bobble and I enjoyed it. But I will say I did it better at the Neopets version of Puzzle Bobble. And I think I spent more hours playing Metal Slug. I got pretty far in Metal Slug. Yeah, it is one of those like visually unique styles of games that I really enjoyed.
Next up, the float coming down the road here is Money Puzzle Exchanger. You probably won't have any money left this year after all your holiday shopping, and you'll be broke and destitute. But that doesn't mean you can't enjoy sliding some coin around on this next float, Money Puzzle Exchanger. Have a blast with this wild cast of characters, all scrambling for some dinero.
I don't know about you, Ian, but this float personally brings back a lot of memories for me. The good old days, game trailers had an arcade cabinet at a break area with this very game. Did you ever get a chance to play Money Puzzle Exchanger at the old offices?
Actually, sadly, this machine had been kaput by the time I got there, so I've never had a chance to play the famous Money Puzzle Exchanger, but I've heard the legends that reverberate to this day, Don.
Yes, they've been told over time, and now this holiday season, Ian, you may get another chance to join in the fun yourself, collecting and matching up coins. As you can see, a colorful cast of characters, and a lot of fun to be had for anyone. Almost anyone can pick up and play and have some fun with this game this holiday, I think.
The colors are the first thing that strike me, Don. That is the classic expectation of these NeoGeo games. One of the most colorful pieces of hardware ever put on the market, I would say.
Colorful, big, bright, in-your-face sprites and sound. Anytime you passed by a darkened arcade cave, you could hear and see NeoGeo thumping its way into your mind, grabbing your attention, and it was hard to ignore. And seeing these games on display in all their glory, rumbling down the snowy boulevard today, it brings you right back.
Don, between your buyer's guides with Ben and this float and this parade, I might be exchanging some money myself come this holiday season.
I love it, Ian. Warning, you are not safe inside your computer. The artificial intelligence known as Cyber Lip is now in charge. Let's listen in as this next float has an audio feature.
The military android has landed in the Old Town area. Proceed to that point right away and stop them. You are the last hope. Good luck.
What do you think about that, Ian?
Fantastic, incredible replication of voice, Don.
it adds another level of realism, as NeoGeo was known for, and it holds up the test of time, some of these special effects and extra things they included, don't you think?
A visual and audio feast. And the immersion of the city rendered on this float, Don, I feel as though I've been transported, and I find myself saying that with almost every float, and that's just the power of the NeoGeo. These floats are all just taking me to different places. We've been on the calm greens of a golf course, the icy caves, and now to a future dystopia. All within the span of one parade.
And look at the scale of this guy. A little surprise here they kept for us at the end as they passed by far below the broadcast booth.
A mechanical marvel, this float. Well, the TV always said dolphins are intelligent, but I never expected this. Aerofighters 2 may be the first float to feature a dolphin flying a fighter jet. Yes, you heard me right. Fly across real-world locations and fight fantastic warcraft in this showpiece of oversized sprites. Don, I never thought I would see the day, but I believe my eyes, because that's the power of these floats here. A dolphin flying a fighter jet.
And he's a cool customer, isn't it? His name, what was that? Spanky? I think that he's called Spanky the Dolphin, and he's a mainstay in this franchise, believe it or not, a crowd favorite, and that's why he's well represented here as the main player character today on this float.
And look at him go, Don. I mean, as agile in the air as he is under the sea, I would say.
Accuracy being how far removed from his natural biome and still being able to maintain a stunning level of accuracy. Quite impressive. But
do you think a dolphin can a dolphin get the bends, Don? I know you're not supposed to fly after going diving.
That's true. Now, that's a good question. Would it be an extreme form of the bends?
Though one might assume that the cockpit of his jet would be filled with ocean water. So if it's pressurized correctly, perhaps he wouldn't perceive any difference and would be very comfortable up in the skies, Don.
This float really gets the gears turning, and that's what I love about it. It gets your imagination whirring, gets some blood back in the brain again where it ought to be, and that feels good, doesn't it?
It absolutely does, Don.
Well, everybody, we've got a lot more coming up. This parade is far from over. But first, let's get back to another section of this buyer's guide. All right, everyone, here we go. The big kahuna, the brand new SNK MVSX, okay? This is this brand new product that is just being released this November, right? This is a pretty exciting thing, 3/4 scale reproduction cabinet. First, before we get to it though, do you have any NeoGeo arcade experience, any history? You pass any of his machines in the grocery store, anything like that, Ben?
Yeah, so I remember, I think it might have been Godfather's Pizza.
Yes.
That's my best guess.
Awesome.
And, going in there, seeing the red cabinet, and that was what was so great about SNK. Like, I had no idea what Samurai Showdown was, but just seeing it, it's like, I have to play this.
Yes.
And that was my first experience with Samurai Showdown. I believe it was Samurai Showdown 2.
Yeah, seeing that red cabinet, and always wondering too, as you made your way around to the front, like what were going to be your choices, because you have the multi-video system. So you're like, what are those games they have there? So let's move on and dig into this a little bit. So this is, as I said, one of these 3/4 scale reproduction cabinets that's just being released this year. The quality of this, as far as I have been able to understand it, seems to be obviously slightly below that of a full-scale arcade machine, but this is maybe slightly better than some of these arcade one-up type machines that we've seen that have become very popular over the last few years. You've probably seen these in Walmart or any of the electronic, sort of superstores. They've got display units the last few holiday seasons. What are your thoughts in general of these small arcade repros, bar top repros that have gotten real popular in the last few years that are, running emulation software and stuff of all these classic arcade games?
I feel a little conflicted because, like, looking at this thing in particular, right? Like, it is hitting the nostalgia hard. I mean, just seeing the red cabinet, it's like, yeah, like that's what you want it to look like. But staring down at this $4.99 price.
Yes.
And you talk about these cabinets, and although I have an intense interest in them. And like one of my dreams is to like someday have a house with a basement where I could actually put cabinets inside of them.
Yes.
But the problem that I run into now is like, I don't have enough in this tiny ass apartment. I don't have enough room for the stuff I already own.
Yeah.
And so buying these expensive things, it's like, I don't have anywhere to put this that it's really getting the full value out of it. You know?
Yeah.
And that concerns me.
Yeah, for sure. It's one of the issues. I mean, even at 3/4 scale, they still take up a sizable amount of space in an apartment or anything like this, and it's a serious thing to consider. How deep do you want to go? Are you really looking to build out that home arcade, or are you just looking for sort of a half step as close as you can get? And also there's something, even though these are so pricey, they are certainly a lot cheaper than a full-scale arcade machine.
Right.
And there's
That's a great point. Yeah,
there's something about them that doesn't feel as delicate in terms of, you can be like, you know, messing around with this thing a little bit. You know, if it breaks down over the time, it's not going to be like the Heartbreaker. It is a reproduction. And that's one of the questions I have about the quality of this particular one. I mean, I know a lot of those arcade one-ups in the stores, those demo units, by the January of the shopping season, you see the paint worn off on the control panel and some of that stuff, which kind of worried me of how fast they did wear down.
Yeah, I have to wonder how much that speaks to the quality of the product versus just like the viciousness that people inflict on like kiosks. Because I remember, I remember like there was coming across this like PS2 demo unit in a Walmart, and you know, they had that thing pretty locked up, and they took precautions to make it durable. They had like stuff around the controller, and like kids ripped that thing up, man. They pulled the controller out of the unit, and so people can be pretty rough on stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Be treated much kinder in your own home. I know, so it lasts a little longer. But I thought that was a good simulation of like, that's what I figured. I was like, okay, 3 months in a Walmart demo is probably about the equivalent of like, what, 8 years in your home, maybe more? I don't know.
That's a reasonable scale, I think.
Anyway, let's shift over to the game library. The really cool thing I like about this is includes both the arcade and the home version of these games.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's a big selection of games, but something stands out about a couple of things that were omitted, I think, are kind of odd in the selection on this one. Things like King of the Monsters that just don't show up there, when that is such a just iconic Neo Geo arcade experience. You got to wonder, well, how did that not get on there? This is very all-encompassing, I should say, for their fighting catalog. It does have quite a bit of that included, which is interesting. But yeah, no King of the Monsters. At the same time then, because it's so inclusive with the fighters, it makes you really wonder. The other omission that I would say that stands out even more than some of these others is no Samurai Showdown 5 Perfect. Okay, now we know this game was recently released for the first time ever with the Samurai Showdown collection, and it's great to be able to have this available. However, look, this is the premier Neo Geo product on the market. Why not include that? It really seems like it almost should have been the center, kind of, you know, the crowning jewel of this thing, included in the library. I'm not sure why it's not there. Anything about the games library to you stand out, either positive or negative?
Something that is positive, again, going back to Metal Slug, is seeing Metal Slug 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and X is that'll get you excited. But no, I think you're right. And I think actually looking at kind of these different products, like my own NeoGeo Mini, and then looking at the game selection here, I think that is kind of frustrating, where you get a lot of good, but not quite absolutely everything that you want.
Yes.
And you would think, especially at this price point, it would be more comprehensive in that sense. Not that there isn't a ton of great stuff here, but I think the omissions that you bring up are good ones to mention.
Now, it does have a USB port as well on the back, and there's nothing official yet from SNK, but you would assume they're going to do a similar kind of thing with the arcade stick, where they will make more games available. But it's hard to knock it, though. Like you said, I mean, the amount of the fighting collections they have, the Metal Slug collections, I mean, all 3 Sengokus, it has so much. The price point, though, $500. Okay, it's $499 or it's $450 if you want just the bar top one. Then for an extra $50, you can get the combo unit, so it's stand up, which, you know, is not quite stand up. I think you'd sit on a bar stool that's probably about the right height to play it straight on. A nice full-size Neo Geo machine with, you know, the game. They have the multi-cards you can get that have like, you know, 120 games. That's going to cost you over well over $1,000, you know, well over $1,200. So it's like, for what it is, it's a pretty good deal, but it is a commitment, right?
Yeah, it's a huge commitment. And something that I think is difficult for me is I have a lot of interest in this sort of thing, but I'm also constantly trying to keep up with new games as well, and just trying to figure out where to spend the money can be difficult. But, you know, you put me at Evo, you show me one of these things, who knows what will happen.
Yeah, exactly. No, I went in hard on that Capcom arcade stick. So I'll probably,
I still haven't played that, Don. I got to play that.
It's quite, AVP is the highlight, Ben. But I'll probably slide down the slippery slope of this MVSX fairly soon. I mean, there's almost no doubt. It's
the holidays.
It's too tempting. At some point, I'm gonna have to acquire one of these because it's like, just like you said, too much nostalgia, and it comes in at a better price than one of these big boys. But Ben, this has been so much fun. Something about Neo Geo and the holidays together just seems so right. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, Neo Geo, 4 bright buttons and 2 joysticks.
Very good.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it, Ben. I hope you have a beautiful holiday season. Thank you for joining me, and looking for some stocking stuffers for people.
Happy holidays.
Hello, everybody. Here to share some of my Neo Geo memories. I don't have as many as some others might. I didn't really find out that much about Metal Slug until later. I didn't really have a lot of like arcades that I went to growing up. You know, if I played an arcade game, a lot of the times it would be, you know, out in other places. You know, the Pizza Huts, the famous Pizza Hut arcade games. When, you know, we out at bars and there'd be arcade machines there and pinball machines there and bowling alleys, of course, and movie theater lobbies and that kind of thing. But I was at a missions organization as an intern for a year and a half or so before coming to LA, and we had a rec room there with Samurai Showdown 2, and I'm guessing it was like set to free play because all of our quarters went to laundry. I don't think we would have spent too many of our quarters, or we wouldn't have clean clothes. But yeah, there I got to mess around with Samurai Showdown 2. I really loved like the big character sprites and just like the huge like full screen effects and everything that it had going on, and just like this the crazy variety of characters. Like character sizes were all over the place. Guys would tower and take up most of the screen. So it was really a cool fighting game. I've picked up some of the collections and things that I've not really gotten like into it hardcore since then. But it's definitely one of those things that I have a fondness in my heart for, and I'm glad to see that they're keeping it alive.
Well, Ian, Holiday 2020 wouldn't be complete without an alien invasion leading a human insurrection. This next float represents our power to fight back. Take back the streets with rage as you battle freaky mutants and towering bosses with your fists and magic powers. This holiday classic can be shelved next to Die Hard and Nutmeg. Wow, that's quite a bold statement.
I see why you would say it. And I just love the stature of these characters. Neo Geo float's known for having tall sprite work, but these guys are maybe giving a run for the money of tallest sprites. They're just fantastic to look upon.
That's a wonderful observation, you know, Ian. I mean, Final Fight is shaking in its shorts when it looks at this. These player characters are towering tall, or stretching almost maybe up to a third of the screen in height.
Absolutely, Don. And you need that reach to fight aliens. Believe me, I know.
Well, the tale of the tape doesn't lie, Ian, and most certainly that inch or two of extra pixels that they throw on there is the winning recipe. The crowd is going bonkers down there, it appears.
The drunken reverie of the crowd below, Don.
I don't know if it's the drunken reverie due to the schnapps being freely handed out amongst the crowd down below, or simply the oodles and oodles of megabits on display thanks to the Neo Geo hardware. But something is making this holiday crowd rather jovial, it appears, Ian.
It could be both, Don. It could easily be both. Well, Don, it would be sinful not to mention the blood-soaked swords of Samurai Showdown near the holidays, but that is not, in fact, the float which represents the fighting genre in this parade. This year, the fighter float went with a light, bright, bursting with color design, represented by Waku Waku 7. You heard me right. It's not the most popular Neo Geo fighter, but it is a lot of fun, and with amazing detailed character design. Watch the painterly backgrounds, colorful Levolution unfold across the rounds. Waku Waku 7 is a spectacle to watch and play.
Yeah, immediately popping out just these bold, bright colors. It's not a game I recall seeing in the arcades either, so this might be a little bit of a hidden gem we're seeing on display today.
Yes, perhaps an import. I don't know. Yeah, I was unaware of this game as well, but just looking right now, I don't want to say in love, but I am definitely intrigued by these fighters, by the colorful background designs, and just the very strong choices when it comes to graphical design here, Don.
It has a fun mood to it. Ian, this float I think would appeal to almost anyone, young or old, and not too serious of a tone, not too much blood like you sometimes see in some of the fighters. So it makes it sort of a nice holiday pick, I think. Something that's okay for the whole family to enjoy.
I love this character, Don. It appears to be a small boy riding upon the back of some sort of creature, perhaps named Maru. Whether that's the name of the boy or the beast or the combination thereof, I'm unclear on that, but just such a fantastic display of teamwork on this float here.
Their home world, the detail built into the background of this float with all the array of small creatures leaping up and down and excitement in the background there. It's just a beautiful, colorful display of movement everywhere your eye darts.
And Levolution, as we mentioned before, look at this. We've seemed to have gone forward in the seasons once again here, Don, as the grass, the green pastures, and the green moss on this ruin behind us has turned a deep and beautiful gold as the seasons have warmed up, cooled down, or whatever goes on Maru's home planet to make the seasons shift.
Absolutely picturesque. Well, we saved the biggest and boldest for last. Witness the sight and power of Blazing Star. This garish shooter is slick to control with a balanced challenge and eye-popping visuals. The float bounces between movie-quality anime cutscenes, pre-rendered 3D cinematics, and bombastic gameplay with screen-filling projectiles. It's a vision of grandeur on display with this float as the background shifts in perspective as you progress, and enemies often appear in the distant backdrop and accelerate into the plane of action with seamless speed. This float represents a game which is both fun to pick up and play and a visual feast to unwrap. What do you see here, Ian, that you like?
Oh,
everything?
Absolutely agree, Don. A visual feast, just the parallax of the ground to our ship here in the foreground with a giant ship in the mid-ground there. It truly is a feast for the eyes, Don.
Yes.
I hope you saved some room after Thanksgiving for this one.
Well, this one is a little more than wafer thin, I can assure you that, but we're still going to have to loosen our belts and cram it in there, because even with a system that has stacked top to bottom with shooters, this one really does stand out, and you can see why here on this float.
Truly astonishing to watch as the enemies sometimes emerge from what looks like a flat backdrop into the foreground, Don. It really does make this come to life, and the seamless transitions between areas. I'm in awe, Don. I'm nearly speechless. Thankfully, I'm not speechless as we are commentating this parade, but nearly so, nearly.
Well, keep your eyes peeled now, Ian, because a little birdie let me into a little secret about this float. Towards the end, they're going to have a boss reveal itself, which is supposed to be An absolute spectacle of sight and sound. It's supposed to knock our socks off, and watch out, the big one is closing in now, it looks like.
Here we come.
Let's
Here it
take a
comes,
look.
Don.
Oh,
My goodness, I did not expect a walking enemy, Don.
holy moly, and the sky is now looks like something out of a Soundgarden video.
Absolutely it does, Don. If this thing's eyes start stretching out, I'm going for the hills.
This a small amount of bullet hell is taking place, but it looks like the player has what it takes. Their skill is great. Wow, this looks like a nice one to pick up and play this holiday.
Absolutely, Don, absolutely. And a wonderful finale for our parade of games here, Don.
Yes, indeed it was, Ian. This is quite a caravan we have witnessed today, a beautiful holiday procession. So many fun games. A good reminder that not just the tent poles like Metal Slug and Samurai Showdown, but the NeoGeo library is vast and expansive indeed, and there's just a lot of fun for most any type of, no matter what genre you're looking for, they've got something for you. I think we know that now.
And yeah, absolutely, Don. And today, as you said, is a perfect example. And I actually deeply respect the parade organizers for not relying on old favorites, but introducing us to a few hidden gems in here, like Waku Waku 7. And I never thought I would get to see a dolphin flying a fighter jet, Don. And so that was a true surprise from Aero Fighters 2.
Yes, we saw a little bit of everything today, I think. Happy holidays, Ian. I'll be looking forward to doing this next year with you.
Happy holidays to you, Don, and to all of you at home. Thank you for joining us on this NeoGeo 2020 Holiday Spectacular.
And to all, a good night.